Hi, and welcome to Focus St. Charles County. I'm Scott Drochnik. Thank you for joining us. Today we're continuing our in-depth series on the County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. You might be surprised to find out that 1 in 4 women nationwide are victims of domestic violence. Domestic violence causes physical injury, psychological trauma, and sometimes even death. And sadly, most cases of domestic violence are never even reported. We're now going to turn our attention to Lauren Klepak. She is a victims advocate here in the County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, and she's going to tell us what people can do to get protection and help in these types of situations.
Orders of protection are civil judgments. They can be obtained by anyone who comes in, whether you have an attorney or not. Their focus is to help domestic violence victims, someone filing against an intimate partner, such as a former or current spouse or boyfriend or someone with children in common, but they can be obtained by a neighbor, anyone who is in fear of bodily harm, or anyone who's been harassed by another individual. An order of protection will prohibit a respondent from abusing, threatening to abuse, stalking, molesting, or disturb the peace of the petitioner. There's also a limitation on communication. They're not allowed to communicate with the petitioner through any manner or through any medium, and typically they're ordered away from a petitioner's home. To obtain an order of protection, you would come down to the courthouse in St. Charles and fill out a petition, including a description for the judge as to what exactly is happening, why you are afraid of the other person, what they've done, including physical abuse, harassment, stalking, and then also demographic information and the relationship between the parties. There's always a victim advocate available to help an individual fill out a petition. From there, a judge will read everything and decide whether to grant a temporary order of protection, which will immediately protect the petitioner, or just a court date. But either way, a court date is issued for a few weeks down the road. In that court date, the judge will ultimately decide whether the order of protection will be granted for a full year or not. The order of protection is valid for 365 days. After that, the petitioner would have to file a renewal to that order in order to extend it for an additional year. A petitioner is allowed 2 renewals, so potentially an order is good for 3 years. The phone number for victims assistance is 636-949-7370, and there's an option they can hit for orders of protection.
Lauren, thank you so much. Folks, back in the year 2000, the alternative court system was created in St. Charles County. Since that time, it has grown tremendously and been a very successful tool in the criminal justice system. Here to tell us more about the alternative court system is Steve Coble, the Chief Docket Attorney for the County Prosecuting Attorney's Office.
In 2000, St. Charles County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, along with the court, members of treatment, probation and parole, and members of the defense bar, created the alternative court program system, more commonly referred to as the drug court. This was initially for individuals who were charged with nonviolent possession of drugs or for drug-related crimes such as stealing. The initial program was about a 13-month program where individuals met a highly intensive regimen of court appearances, treatment, and also random drug testing. This form of drug court was highly inducive to the individual in that if he successfully completed the program and graduated, they were able to receive a dismissal for their charges. In 2004, our office helped institute the DWI tract of the alternative court system. This was for repeat DWI offenders. Since these individuals were repeat offenders, they were not offered a dismissal of their crimes. But in place of incarceration, which most of these individuals would have received, these individuals were given a chance for probation with the condition of doing the drug court. This drug court, based upon the DWI tract, was more referenced towards alcohol abuse than drug abuse. Later, the courts have formed the family court, the juvenile court, and now the co-occurring court. While our office has little to do with the juvenile court and the family court, we do have a major role in the co-occurring court, which deals with mental health issues that many of the individuals who commit crimes have. Many of these individuals have mental health issues that do not reach the point of hospitalization for their mental health issues, yet they're clear that these mental health issues were the cause of their crimes. Having been the initial prosecutor to handle drug court in St. Charles County, I've been firsthand able to see the successes of drug courts. we now see large groups graduating 2-3 times a year. Many of our former graduates come back and speak not only to schools, but to new members of the drug court. Someone breaking the addictions of either alcohol or drug abuse not only helps themselves, but they help our community. Once they break these bonds of addiction, they're able to become an active member of the community. They're able to get a job, pay taxes, either reunite with their family or start new families. This is not only a success for them, but it's also a success for the community.
Thanks, Steve. We appreciate it. We're going to come back to you in a moment. But folks, quick little break, and when we return, we're going to find out about narcotics and asset forfeiture.
Thanks for calling the GED Pep Talk Center. Jerry Siller speaking. Your level 7 in-your-face pep talk.
I can keep pushing you. Believe me, I'm good at it. But at some point, you're going to need to start pushing yourself.
See, once you've got your GED diploma, you'll feel so good about yourself.
You tell them. You can't change your past, but you can definitely change your future.
That makes me so happy, I'm ready to bust out a dance.
Mr. Trejo, can I transfer this guy to you? My gentle technique isn't really working. You need something a little more
persuasive.
Yes.
You listen, and you listen good.
Hey, where's my sandwich? Terry? Terry!
Take it from me, the King DMC. It's a real cool thing to get your GED.
Get that diploma!
Now hold on and we'll find you free GED classes. Capiche?
Whatever motivation you need, we've got a pep talk for you. Get your GED pep talk and find free classes at yourged.org.
A full life, measured in seats, starts with the right ones early on. Car crashes are the #1 killer of children 1 through 13. Learn how to prevent deaths and injuries by using the right car seat for your child's age and size.
In 1977, in Johannesburg, South Africa, an 8-year-old boy picked up the game of golf from his father. By the age of 9, he was already outplaying him. The odds of this gentle lad winning the Junior World Golf Championships at the age of 14, 1 in 16 million. The odds of that same boy then making it to the US and European Pro Golf Tours, 1 in 7 million. The odds of the Big Easy winning the Open Championship once and the US Open Championship twice, 1 in 780 million. The odds of this professional golfer having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 88. Ernie Els encourages you to learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs. Early diagnosis can make a lifetime of difference.
Welcome back to Focus St. Charles County. We're continuing to talk about the County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. Over the years, the community has dealt with a number of drug issues, ranging from marijuana to heroin. And because of that, the County Prosecuting Attorney's Office works very closely with the St. Charles County Regional Drug Task Force. Here to tell us more about battling these drug issues and issues like asset forfeiture is Chief Docket Attorney Steve Coble.
Well, due to St. Charles' unique makeup, demographically and geographically, being that the northern and the southern ends of the county are rural and the middle area is mainly suburbanite. That has led to unique threats to this county as far as narcotics. In the mid-1990s, we saw an explosion of methamphetamine in the clandestine labs that accompanied it. This has continued into the 2000s and the 2010s. In the suburban areas, we've always seen marijuana. In the 80s and 90s, we saw our main threat being cocaine and its base form, more commonly known as crack cocaine. In the 2000s, heroin took over. Due to its addictiveness and number of overdoses, this has led to a special challenge for St. Charles County. Over the last 25 years, this office has worked closely with the St. Charles County Regional Drug Task Force. This includes, in the mid-1990s, a specialized unit was formed to work not only with the St. Charles County Regional Drug Task Force, but to put an individual from our office on call 24 hours a day to deal with questions from law enforcement officers and to deal with search warrants in the middle of the night. Unfortunately, drug dealers do not do their business 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., but usually in the middle of the night and on weekends. So having an officer from this office on duty 24 hours a day has been highly important in regard to fighting the flow of narcotics. Not only through the members of the St. Charles County Regional Drug Task Force, but other officers who work in the highways of this county. And the fact is, we do have two major thoroughfares through our county. Drug assets are routinely seized. These drug assets are normally cash or vehicles that are direct proceeds from drug trafficking. Forfeitures can be done in two different ways. The first is by a state forfeiture, also known as a CAFA forfeiture. Once that money is forfeited, it goes to the state fund for education, similar to the casino money. A second way that asset forfeiture can be done is when a federal agent is involved. That can be done through what is called a federal turnback. This is extremely important not only from the county, but the St. Charles County Prosecutor's Office, and that a portion of the money that is seized goes back to the seizing agency, i.e. the police department involved, and the St. Charles County Prosecutor's Office. Why this is important to our office is it not only provides money for training and for equipment in our office. Thus, the drug dealer, instead of the taxpayer, helps fund our office in the fight of narcotics.
Steve, thank you for that information, and we appreciate all that you're doing. When it comes to homicide, that's probably something most of us don't normally think about for St. Charles County. Sadly, they do occur. And when they occur, we assure you that the County Prosecuting Attorney's Office does everything they can to bring people involved in a homicide to justice. As a matter of fact, no unsolved murder case is ever closed in St. Charles County. Here to tell us more about how homicides are prosecuted and the work that goes into them is Chief Trial Attorney Phil Grenway.
Well, one of my jobs as a chief trial attorney is to oversee all the homicide prosecutions we have in this county. When someone is murdered, we don't just prosecute the trigger person, the person who does the killing. We'll also go after their accomplices. Under Missouri law, if another person aids, assists, or encourages another person in committing a crime, in this case a homicide, for the purpose of the commission of that homicide, they are equally guilty. For example, getaway car driver, lookout, person who supplies the weapons. Some of the cases involve multiple defendants, and because of the intricacies of the law, each defendant usually ends up being tried separately, thus creating a separate murder case. But the other thing that I'm very proud of as a prosecutor is our cold case work that we've been doing. Now, this is a tradition that extends throughout St. Charles County law enforcement, the police as well as our office. I've known police detectives who have literally worked their entire careers, along with their other duties, on trying to solve cases, murder cases that have not been solved. They work years on doing that. In fact, one of those detectives, when he retired from the police department, we then hired him as an investigator in our office to continue working on those cases. The philosophy is that no murder case in this county is ever closed as being unsolved. No matter how old it is, we're always re-examining it and seeing what can be done. Now, of course, in terms of cold cases, we live in exciting times because of the advances in science, specifically DNA. Now, think about it. If you committed a murder in 1970, you may have thought to wear gloves so that you didn't leave fingerprints. But chances are you didn't think about your DNA being left behind. Probably didn't even know what DNA was. DNA can be left behind in saliva, semen, blood, but it can even be left behind from skin cells that flake off when we touch something. These tests are incredibly sensitive, very sophisticated, and they hold a tremendous amount of promise in being able to solve old cases. In fact, who knows what advances will take place in the future. But our office is always committed to being on the cutting edge of this technology, always re-examining these cases to see what we can do to solve those old cases.
Phil, thank you so much. And folks, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, you're going to hear an overview of a criminal prosecution.
It's time to join forces. Get energized and fuel up right.
It's coming.
Because starting today, every kid in America has a mission. Bring out the action hero in you. Be part of the greatest action movie ever. The first movie that puts you in the action. Show us how you train and eat like an action hero. Join in at actionheroalliance.com.
Hi, I'm Clint Black. Have you heard of Rett syndrome? I hadn't until my niece Courtney was diagnosed. Rett syndrome is a neurological disorder which occurs mostly in girls. It's often misdiagnosed as autism or cerebral palsy. Rett syndrome strikes without warning. A girl with Rett syndrome starts out as a happy, healthy baby until 6 or 18 months of age, when something goes terribly wrong. She loses the ability to speak, use her hands to play with toys, or even feed herself. She may also lose the ability to walk. A girl with Rett syndrome makes constant hand washing or hand wringing movements. By the time she is 3 years old, a girl with Rett syndrome is severely handicapped. The International Rett Syndrome Foundation hopes to find the families affected by this devastating disorder and provide care and research that will make a difference. Research is urgently needed to accelerate treatments and find a cure. Please call 1-800-818-7388 or visit rettsyndrome.org today. Your help is our hope.
Jimmy can't sing,
and Tommy can't dance,
so we're gonna put some ants in their pants. Aww, and walk like a monkey, hop like a bunny. Isn't that funny? Ants in their pants, they've got ants in their pants. They've got ants in their pants, they've got ants in their pants. Ants in their pants, they've got ants in their pants. They've got ants in their pants. They've got ants in their pants.
One more time.
Jimmy can't sing,
and Tommy can't dance,
so we're gonna put some ants in their pants. Aww.
Kids will spend 22 minutes watching us, the super duper party troopers, sing about ants in their pants.
Isn't that funny? Ants in their pants, they've got ants in their pants. They've got ants in their pants.
Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. 2 minutes, twice a day. They have the time.
Welcome back to Focus St. Charles County. We're continuing to talk about the County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. If you think about it, the work of the County Prosecuting Attorney's Office touches all of us in the community because we are all interested in safety and in justice. And yet dealing firsthand with the criminal justice system can seem confusing, if not overwhelming at times. Here to give us an overview of the criminal justice system is Jillian Anderson, the Chief Attorney for Policy and Development.
The duty of the St. Charles County Prosecuting Attorney's Office is to prosecute all violations of the state criminal laws of the state of Missouri that occur within the boundaries of St. Charles County. We routinely work with over 600 commissioned law enforcement officers spread between 11 different departments who routinely patrol our neighborhoods and our commercial areas responding to citizens' complaints of criminal activity. While criminal charges are always brought by the prosecutor's office, we do so in cooperation with law enforcement officers who very often put their own personal safety at risk to put together criminal cases. We also work with victims who find the courage to stand up against their assailants, and we work with all citizens in St. Charles County who come into the courthouse week after week to fulfill their civic duty as jurors, so that standing together, the good people of St. Charles County ensure the safety of all of us. The vast majority of criminal cases begin with a police investigation. Once the investigation has concluded that a crime has been committed and a suspect has been identified, the police will seek an arrest warrant from the prosecutor's office. A criminal suspect may be arrested as much as 24 hours prior to a warrant being issued, or the police may make the arrest after a warrant has been issued. Under no circumstances may the police hold a suspect in jail for more than 24 hours without an arrest warrant. To obtain an arrest warrant, a prosecutor must review the evidence and determine that there is probable cause to find that the suspect committed a crime. Prosecutors use their independent discretion in deciding whether to issue criminal charges. And in addition to reports and interviews, prosecutors review forensic evidence, which may include physical evidence maintained by our police, and it may include scientific evidence such as drug analysis or DNA. In St. Charles County, it is our mission to be diligent, strict, and vigorous with prosecution, but also to always be fair, reasonable, and just. Once a criminal case has been issued, the suspect is designated as the defendant in the criminal court case. As soon as a criminal case is filed with the court, a judge will review a brief statement of the facts of the case and the charges against the defendant and will set a bond. A bond is a means to ensure that a criminal defendant does not flee or avoid court. Should the defendant fail to come to court, he or she will forfeit or owe the court a designated sum. Bond is set in proportion to the severity of the crime, the danger the defendant presents to a victim or to the community, and any indications that the defendant may try to flee. Very soon after a defendant is charged, the defendant will come before a judge in a court, and the judge will explain to the defendant the charges against him or her and the amount of the bond. This is tied to a defendant's Sixth Amendment right to be fully informed of the nature and the charges against him. Before a criminal charge can be submitted to a jury in a trial, evidence of the crime must be first submitted to a judge or a grand jury for consideration. Only after a judge or a grand jury has viewed the evidence firsthand and has found that there is probable cause to support the charges will the case proceed to a guilty plea or a trial. Also, before a case goes to trial, the prosecutor must share his or her evidence and investigation with an attorney for the defendant. This is to allow the defendant the opportunity to fully investigate and prepare any defense to the charges. The Sixth Amendment also guarantees a criminal defendant the right to an attorney. So defendants who cannot afford to hire an attorney will be appointed a well-experienced criminal defense attorney with the Public Defender's Office. It is not unusual for a case to be pending before the court for a period ranging from 6 months to up to 2 years before the case is concluded by a plea or a trial. Defendants who are convicted of serious crimes or who have extensive criminal records will often be sentenced to prison. If a defendant is sentenced to prison, he or she will remain incarcerated until the Department of Corrections finds parole to be lawful and appropriate. Others are placed on a period of probation that may last up to 5 years. During that probation period, a defendant will be supervised by a probation officer who will seek to ensure that the defendant is abiding by the law, gainfully employed, not abusing drugs, and is actively engaged in rehabilitative programs tailored to the defendant's circumstances and the crime that he or she committed. Many understand that the role of a prosecutor is to be an advocate, but a prosecutor has an equally important, though less visible, role as both an officer of the court and a minister of justice. You may see prosecutors asked to comment on very serious criminal cases on news programs or in the media, and wonder, why is the prosecutor reserved in his or her comments about the case? This is due to a prosecutor's equally important role in upholding the Constitution of the United States and ensuring that all of those that a prosecutor seeks to convict are first afforded a fully fair trial process, and that jurors who may be called to decide the facts of a case are not prejudiced before the trial even begins. A prosecutor's job is to seek justice, not to merely convict. The prosecutor's office has a lot of power over an individual's life, their liberty, and their reputation. And in the St. Charles County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, we believe that we can best serve our community by guiding our prosecution with a sense of fairness and even humility, as well as thorough, aggressive, fact-driven prosecution. It is our mission to do what is right in every case, every day, to make sure that our neighborhoods are safe and our justice system is fair.
Jillian, thank you so much for that overview. And folks, that's all the time we have for this particular special edition of Focus St. Charles County as we complete our second part in-depth look at the County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. Hopefully you've learned a lot just as we have, and we appreciate all the work these folks are doing for the community. Well, please join us in the future as we continue our focus on St. Charles County. Until then, I'm Scott Drochnik. See you again soon.